Good morning, coffee topic. Today I am doing water this morning, but it's still a coffee topic. We can still do a coffee topic, right? Without coffee. So maybe you're drinking coffee. I hope you are, and I hope you enjoy it. But I wanted to talk about a topic. It's been bothering me for a while, like most things, right? But it's an important, I wanted to think about this one a lot before I decided to record something about it. I'm going to do an article too for the community site and drop it in there, but it has to do with, in large part, safety metrics, but really just how we measure things, what we decide to measure, all of that good stuff. You've probably heard, maybe in a conference room, boardroom, in a meeting, so one of the business managers, operations managers, or even our leaders, our business leaders say something along the lines of the following phrase: what gets measured gets controlled. How many of you, raise your hand if you've heard that? I have all the time. Well, here's the dirty little secret. It's often attributed to Peter Drucker. He never said it, never said that. And the person who did say that didn't actually mean that. It wasn't even close. It was in 1956, supposedly, based on my extensive research. It wasn't that extensive. And I had read this before in my past, many years ago, and it was like an itch I couldn't scratch. I was like, man, I know I've heard that phrase. I don't think Drucker said that. I thought it was somebody else. So I had to go back and take a look. In 1956, V.F. Ridgway wrote, "What gets measured gets done, even if it's the wrong thing to measure." It was the full quote in context is what people get wrong. They conveniently leave out that last part. And that's something that we do all the time. We don't take the time to really to read or listen to understand the full context. We pull out something that confirms uh, an easy path forward. Oh, we just have to measure everything so we can control it, right? And we ran off with this whole, which is in part a self-fulfilling prophecy. It's true, but we've made it true that, hey, most workers aren't going to do anything unless you're measuring it. Uh, all right, I mean, but that's like saying falls are due to gravity or water's wet, right? Yeah, most of us aren't going to do anything unless it's something that we have to do, right? Okay, so that's the full quote. The part everyone forgets is that last section. So, yeah, I mean, what gets measured gets controlled, even if we shouldn't measure it. And that's the part I have a problem with. So, the problem in safety, if you could call it a problem, is this is where we get into trouble. We measure what's easy, we measure what's familiar to us, we measure what fits neatly into a dashboard or a spreadsheet. So we've got near misses, we've got audits, observations, feedback, checklists, and the obvious stuff. I'm not saying we don't measure those things. I'm just starting us off, right? Starting us off. And so we kind of get this collection of data points. It can grow. It can kind of just creep into this uh, this sort of log jam of data points. And you've heard the phrase paralysis by analysis or death by data. There's a bunch of phrases for this, and that can happen to us. So these are things that we need to be on the lookout for. Okay. So the real risk here is what we lose in all of these data points. We start chasing minor fluctuations. We fix quote unquote problems that aren't really problems. We fix the wrong things. Or what's worse, we get too granular and we lose the broader categories of trends, and we get too into the individual grains of data. And so we dilute broader categories, if this makes sense, with the granular data, and it's evenly, all of our metrics or our data points are evenly distributed across different categories, and we don't really have something that jumps out. And so we don't know what to fix, so we go, well, we got to either let's fix these because it's easy. And then the workers are on the front lines, they're out in the field, they're on the floor, they know what's going on, and they see us chasing this minutia. I call it majoring in the minors and what doesn't matter. I've heard of business leaders that go out, and I think it's because they don't know what else to fix. One, because they don't know, they're uninitiated, they're not safety professionals, which is okay. That's not a problem. But they don't know what to fix, so they fix something that they think has good cosmetics. It looks good, right? And we call it vanity metrics. I'm going to go out and I'm going to just remind everybody out there on the floor about PPE. Even though they're doing jobs that don't require it, I just see these people over here aren't wearing what those people are wearing, so I'm going to say something. I want everyone to look the same. Or we try to standardize this stuff across the site or across the job, and they know they don't need it. They know that they're the ones that require it. I don't do that job, so I don't need it. And then we kind of get lost in this sort of back and forth, in tug of war, if you will, and we're focusing on the wrong things. So Drucker had a whole different message about measurement, in that measurement must be intentional, deliberate, and linked to what truly matters. Like, count what matters, but know what matters first, is the phrase that I remember from my lean training. Not everything that can be counted should be counted, right? And not everything that gets counted deserves your energy and focus and attention. Like I said, we can major in the minors. So, a better way to measure safety? I don't know. We're all just trying to figure it out too. But let's start with maybe the overall health of our safety management system. Are the processes, our programs, controls actually designed well and used well, right? This tells us whether our people can perform safely. Signals of operational risk. This is another one. I wrote a few of these down. I didn't want to miss any of these. Forgive me as I refer to my notes here. Signals of operational risk. Where is there drift happening, operational drift? And I know that term, like all terms, gets redefined, falls out of favor, and we put a different word on it, even though it has the same exact meaning. We just call it something different, and then eventually we'll call it drift again when my kids have kids. But what patterns keep showing up there? Where is work as performed or work as conducted quietly separating from the work as designed or work as imagined? And maybe we imagined it wrong. Maybe it was designed poorly or outdated, and we've changed materials or tooling or something, and we didn't change our design expectations or work as expected. This is where our early warning signs, or these weak signals everyone talks about, the actual signal to noise ratio, we can dial that in. We want more signal and less noise, basically. So yeah, injury rates still matter, the lagging indicators, but what's feeding into those things, identifying those important signals that we can trace is key. If we're trying to track everything, then that becomes our job. I know safety, I've been there, and I know you probably have too, is that we try to track every possible thing, that becomes the full-time job. We're never able as safety professionals to actually work on the business because we're so busy collecting data and trying to organize it and trying to show it to people and then answer the questions about where we got this and what this means and tweak this and that, and finding better tools. And that becomes our job. We got sucked in almost like hedgehog mode, that we're working in the business, that we don't prairie dog enough. If you remember this old leadership or management fable or analogy of the hedgehog and the prairie dog. Um, we need to work on the business, work in the business, I should say. We need people that do the job, absolutely. But we also have to have folks that work on the business, right? And so we can kind of get pulled into this death by data or paralysis through analysis. So that's important. So what we're measuring, it has to be the right things. And when we do that, we get clarity. Clarity. We can actually work on things that are causing problems, not that majoring in the minors, fixing the one or two offs that we think are contributing, but it's because we got a little too granular. We have too many data points we're looking across that we're just picking that path of least resistance. Low-hanging fruit's also another one I want to talk about at another time, but I always kind of chuckle when I hear somebody say, hey, like, get some quick wins, man. That's low hanging fruit. And like, yeah, it's hanging low for a reason. You know, nobody wants it. And so it's rotten fruit. Don't worry about that. But risk signals will emerge earlier when we have this clarity. And therefore our improvement efforts become intentional. And we're not just kind of spitballing, trying to fix every little thing we come across, hoping one of them moves the needle. Next time someone quotes, whether it's Drucker or anybody else, that old business adage, right? Just kind of nod and smile and say, exactly. What gets measured gets controlled, even if we shouldn't measure it. That's why we measure what truly matters. All right, so that's the coffee topic, my water topic. But what do you think? Do we get a little too into the weeds and to the point where we can't do anything in any practical sense anyway? Let me know what you think of this topic. I will also put together an article, a blog post, and drop the article as well. I look forward to reading your replies.